Welcome to Journey with the Jays, now on Real 1100 in Atlanta, Thursday, 6 to 7. And we're joined tonight by special guest Brett Miller, former Falcon. We're going to start off tonight with some football over with Spenser. Spenser, you want to kick us off tonight?
Absolutely, guys. So welcome to Journey with the Jays. Brett, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
You got it. I wanted to get started with this news out of Miami. I know John is very happy about this, or he might not be. We'll find out. Rookie quarterback Tua Tagovailoa will take over as the Dolphins starter beginning Week 8 against the Los Angeles Rams, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. So it's actually weird because it's coming off a week in which Ryan Fitzpatrick played really well. They kicked the heck out of the Jets, and this is just an odd time, I guess, to make the announcement. But I know, John, you're excited, or maybe you're not. Let's hear your takes on this.
Of course. I'm extremely excited, like any fan, I believe, should be. This was something that I believe the Dolphins were planning with the bye, the change of the bye with the COVID stuff for everybody. Their bye got switched. Ended up having to play the Jets Week 6. So I love it. I'm excited about it. Ryan Fitzpatrick got us to 3-3 with an extremely difficult schedule. Kudos to him. Barely lost to the Seahawks, undefeated. Barely lost to the Bills, 4-2. Barely lost to the Pats in Foxborough Week 1. With everybody being excited about Cam. Those were all one possession games at the end of the fourth quarter. So 3-3 through that difficult schedule, and you went to the Niners stadium. You beat the Niners handily, even though they're depleted. That's still a team with a lot of talent in Kyle Shanahan. You beat them easily. So I'm excited, 3-3, and then you got a favorable schedule the rest of the way, some difficult games, but I'm super excited. I was going crazy in the car when I heard it on my way to work. I'm stoked. Obviously, you can't see on the radio, but I have my Tua jersey on. My daughter has a Tua jersey. This is a Tua family. We absolutely love Tua, and you have to love the guy. I mean, if you saw the picture of him after the game against the Jets, he was just soaking in the moment because he didn't know if he was ever going to get to play football again because he dislocated his hip, and that's an injury you probably don't come back from. So he's just a guy you love to root for, and I'm ecstatic. So I think this is fantastic. I have more thoughts on it, but there's other folks on the show, so please, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, my only thing is, I'm very happy for him. So, anybody that's listening, don't get me wrong. I'm excited to see what he's got. My only knock really is it's like an odd time to do it. Yes, it makes sense with the bye week, but Fitzpatrick, or as I really should be calling him, Fitzmagic, has been looking really good. I've been pleasantly surprised with how well he's played. It has been impressive. He's got this Dolphins team playing at a good level for considering what they are, of course. You have to keep, take it with a grain of salt. They're not going to be a superstar team that's going to win the Super Bowl. They're really a rebuilding team. That's okay. That's where they are, and we understand that. So my thing is to be playing the way he was playing. That's my only real knock on them is if you got someone that's doing well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, what's the thought there? But on the other side, which I understand why I'm really excited is they got the bye week now. Tua's got some extra time to get some extra reps with the offense now, especially now as the official starter. They get the time to get him in there, and I'm really excited. He's got a lot of potential. I love the running quarterbacks, the mobile quarterbacks in the league. Those are my favorite. I constantly am talking about that because that's where the quarterback position is really moving towards and has been for the past few years. Mike Vick was like generational when he did it. And now it's becoming the norm. If you're not a mobile quarterback, you're starting to get on your way out. You look at the superstars in the league, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen is definitely up there on that list for sure too. All mobile guys that can run and get out of the pocket. And Tua has definitely got that ability. Yeah, John, what's up?
It's almost like being a center in the NBA. Those days of Shaquille O'Neal where he could just back guys down and dunk it. They're gone. If you're a center and you can't hit the 3-point shot, you don't exist anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. That's a great analogy. And so that's where the game is moving. So as great as I say, Fitz was playing very well, I can't wait to see Tua. I was excited when they drafted him out of college. I think the Dolphins have got a good young core, especially in that receiving core with Devontae Parker and I'm blanking on his name. Somebody help me out here. Who is his other receivers?
Preston Williams?
Yes, thank you. Couldn't think of his name. That escaped me. Another talented young receiver. I look forward to seeing what he can do with them. It's going to be fun. And you know what? I just loved watching Tua in college. I hope to see the same in the NFL because he was electrifying in college. I just hope to see the same here. I mean, look, it's going to be fun no matter what. Even if it's a team that's not going to win a lot of games, it's going to be fun to watch. That's for sure. Spencer, what do you think?
I want to hear the former NFL player's opinion. Does someone come back from an injury like this, and are they able to perform at that elite level? What do you think? What do you think is reasonable to expect from Tua Tagovailoa in his first start in Week 8?
Well, you know, the advances in orthopedic repairs has come so far since I played because, you know, maybe a decade before I played, if you had a bad knee injury, you were done. And then when I was playing, I had my first reconstruction done in '86, and had that done in January. And I was back in training camp in July. You can see what happened to Bo Jackson with his hip. You know, it was a little bit different because the hip bone died because of vascular deficiency, but I don't see any reason for him not to be 100%. And, you know, I don't blame the Dolphins for putting him in the breach right now because, you mentioned earlier in the show, it's been 21 years since Dan Marino's been there. And now it's been a revolving. No, how many years? They've had 21 quarterbacks, I think, correct?
99 was the last time he played. So yeah, it's been 21 years.
Right. I mean, it's just, and you know, Marino was so gifted. I have arguments all the time. I think he might be the GOAT. I think he might be better than Montana. I think he might be better than Brady. He played in a different era, and Joe and Danny played in the same year, same decade. And you know, I had a chance to meet Dan when they were down in the Dolphins down in training camp with us in Swanee, Georgia. Super great guy, but every DB that I know that played in the league in that era said that the quarterback they feared the most was Dan Marino because they didn't know when the ball was coming out of his hand because his release was so quick. I mean, it looked like he would just raise his hand and the ball just left. You couldn't even see the forward motion. So, you know, I think it's a good move to put Tua in there. I mean, you got to get the guy some reps. He's got to settle in, and they're looking long-term, obviously, like the Chargers are doing with it's Herbert, right? Justin Herbert.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky to be on the sidelines at the San Diego Charger games, or Los Angeles Charger games, sorry. And he is a stud. I mean, and he's doing well. He's set, I think he's the first rookie quarterback that ever had 300-yard plus passing games in a row. I saw him in the Kansas City game, as a matter of fact, run toward the sideline trying to get out of bounds, and the linebacker tried to put a lick on him, and he knocked the linebacker out. So, you know, I think the quarterbacks today are big. I think Cam Newton kind of started that trend because Cam Newton is a big dude, man. When I stood next to Cam, I was like, God, you're a quarterback. So now not only are they big, I think you have two on the scale right now. You have the big guys that can move, and then you have the little guys that are so fast it doesn't matter what size they are because you can't catch them. I mean, you have quarterback running a 4.3. That's 4.3 is pretty quick, and I think who's the guy for the Ravens? What's his
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
I think he runs a sub 4.340, right? Doesn't he run like a 4.25 or something?
Yeah, he's fast.
Which is, if you guys have ever seen somebody run a 4.3 at ground level, it looks like a cartoon. They're moving so fast. So yeah, I think it's a good move with Tua, and I think the Dolphins need to get in. I think they've done pretty good. But you know, how many years has Fitzpatrick been in the league?
A long time.
I think about 16 years.
It's a young man's game. I mean, you know, it really is. And these guys that are, you know, once you break through that 10-year barrier, I think you kind of age in dog years. You know, your rookie year, it's all good. You feel good the next day. By the time you get to your 10th year, you don't feel good from the start of the season till the end of the season. And, you know, thankfully, the rules are protecting the quarterbacks because those are usually the guys that last that long. And that's why they're able to have these careers. Because if Brady had played back in my day, he would have been snapped in half because they used to get after it. I mean, you know, Lawrence Taylor didn't like gently put somebody down. Neither did Derek Thomas. Neither did Singletary. I mean, Wilbur Marshall, those guys, when they, you know, Reggie White, they punished quarterbacks and they didn't get called. And I see them calling stuff now today where I'm like, What are you talking about? I mean, the guy bumped into him. You can't change your direction when you're running full speed with your head down. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. It's still enjoyable to watch, but it's a much different game, as you guys touched on with the running versus the passing. It's either very vertical or it's running heavy. There's really no blend anymore, but Kansas City did do a pretty good job of blending it their last game.
They did. And I just wanted to confirm that number before. He will be the 22nd quarterback to start since Dan Marino for the Dolphins. So good for Tua. The one thing I do want to add is the Dolphins are a game out of first place in the AFC East. Am I correct there, John? So
yes,
this could be a move that might kind of elevate them and put them in contention for that AFC East spot. So that's the last thing I'll say about that. I want to move on to the Monday Night Football games from a few days ago. You're listening on Thursday. I want to start with the Chiefs. Who did the Chiefs beat? The Bills. Yeah, Chiefs, Bills. And Brett, you brought it up. I mean, we all know what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. But JB, tell us, what did you see from Andy Reid in that Chiefs running game that was so darn impressive against the Bills? And why weren't they ready for the challenge?
I don't think it's that the Bills aren't ready for the challenge. I just think that, right now the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. The Bills are getting better. Their defense is good. They held Kansas City in check most of the game, but Kansas City has more weapons this year than they had last year, and they were the best team last year. Hilaire is there. They have a nice running game. They're mixing up the run really well with the pass. And when the weather was really bad, they didn't have to rely on a passing game. They were able to hand the ball off, throw little short passes, and move the ball all around. So to give Mahomes, time when he had to throw, and it's just a different game. That's where I think it separates Buffalo from Kansas City is the running game. Buffalo doesn't have that type of running game, and Kansas City's now become that much better by adding it. What do you think, Jake?
I think it's you touched on how great Hilaire is, but I also feel like it's Andy Reid's coaching style and just everything he has on that team, the weapons at his disposal. As a fan, you never know what they're going to do, but I can't imagine what it's like as a player because you never know if they're going to run the ball, throw the ball, and if they run the ball, who's going to run it? Is it going to be some trickery? Because Andy Reid is like the king of trickery now with, you think you're going to get the running back, and out of nowhere, you're going to get Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill coming out of nowhere, and they're going to carry the ball, or Patrick Mahomes is going to carry the ball. That alone it keeps you on your toes so much. You're like, where do I look? I mean, these defenders, I don't care how good they are. They don't know who to look at, or they're trying to look like four different people at once. They're going to get caught. They're going to get caught looking at one guy, and someone else is going to come up and make the play. And that's what I love about this Chiefs offense and why they're really the best team in football is not just because of the players they have. And yes, Patrick Mahomes absolutely contributes and a great running game, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not hurting. But I don't think for me it's that. It's really Andy Reid coaches this team so darn well and keeps defenses on their toes. It allows them to do things like they just did where they get a good run and then the defense is not sure, are they going to run it? And like I said, who's going to run it at that point? It's such a guessing game with the Chiefs and the way they play. Their style of play is so unique and different with all the trick plays and everything. You're constantly guessing. And so for me, it's why I think the Chiefs are constantly winning and able to do what they do is just they have so many different options. That's really what it comes down to for me. I want to hear what Brett you have to think because I know it's very different than what when you played. It's very different style of game. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think the thing that's not different is it starts up front with the big guys. And from what I understood, watching the game, as a matter of fact, the Bills had benched a couple of their starting defensive linemen to start a fire going if they're on the D line. And then the Kansas City Chiefs were playing with a ramshackle offensive line. Everybody had been shuffled around. The left tackle was playing right tackle. The left guard was a rookie. He had just got put in the game. And the center, and that's a credit to those guys because it all starts up front. And I think the guy's number was 73, who was the left guard. He was killing people. And those guys, it doesn't matter what the scheme is. It doesn't matter what the plays that are called. If it's a pass play, you have to pass block. If it's running play, you have to run block. Does the uncertainty on the defense of knowing what's coming at them help it? Sure it does. I mean, they can't pin their ears back like it's 3rd and 20 because you know a pass is coming, but you still got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think Kansas City, the offense, their offensive coordinator and Andy have found a way to maximize the production of their offensive line because they dominated the other night. And I think that was the difference in the game. Sure, Patrick Mahomes is a freak. I mean, he's got to be arguably one of the top 3 guys in the league, and he's so talented. And his arm is like a bullwhip. I don't know how he gets that out of there sometimes. And then, you know, there's other guys that are talented and quick thinking and have phenomenal arms. But, you know, it comes down to blocking and tackling. And, you know, it looked to me like watching that game. And, you know, I'm friends with Andy, so I'm a little bit prejudiced towards the Chiefs, but I'm friends with another guy who's one of my best friends, Chris Hale, who was a DB for the Chiefs back in the Jim Kelly days. I think it starts up front, and then it just carries through to the different levels. You know, if you bust a coverage, sometimes you can get away with it. But if you miss a block, it's a sack. I mean, it's 100% a sack. Even with Patrick Mahomes, it's 100% sack. So anyway, that's kind of my thought. You know, it's the game has changed. The philosophy's changed, but it comes down to the basics.
Brett, I had a question for you. Were there days in your career where you just knew that your offensive line had it going, and no matter what happened, that defense wasn't going to touch your running back, they weren't going to touch your quarterback, and there was going to be a clean pocket for anything to happen offensively? Did you see a lot of those days in your career?
Oh yeah, they're quite frequent. But I remember in 85? I think it was 85 when we started out 5-0, and then a bunch of people got hurt. But we were killing people with our running game, and we went into every game. In the offensive line, we were getting 5 yards per carry average. We were getting 200 plus yards rushing per game, and there was nobody that could stop us. And we just were synced up. We'd been together long enough. It was a fairly simple. You're like, hey, listen, we're bringing the ball right here. We're going to run right here, and we're telling you the ball's coming right here between it's back in the C gap or the B gap or the A gap, and we're just going to hit you in the mouth, and we're going to win. And we did. So yeah, you can definitely tell when you're firing on all cylinders, and I think that goes for every position, but offensive line and defensive line more so because it's a group that has to play together to have success. Everybody has to do their job.
You want to talk about another dominating performance on Monday night. The Cardinals beat up on the Cowboys 38, I believe, to 10. Kyler Murray had a great game. Kenyon Drake had 20 carries for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Ezekiel Elliott uncharacteristically had 2 really big fumbles in the beginning of the game. John, what did you see from this game? What did you think of the Cardinals stepping up and just beating the Cowboys like it was nothing?
I don't really feel the Cardinals stepped up as much as the Cowboys lost the game. The Cardinals didn't particularly look good. I mean, Kyler Murray completed 9 passes. Your starting quarterback completes 9 passes and you win. That doesn't say that the Cardinals were the ones dominating necessarily. It was more the Cowboys' ineptitude. And clearly you heard today that there was an anonymous player from the Cowboys saying that the coaches are not doing their jobs and they're not good at their jobs. They're not just not doing their jobs, they're not good at their jobs. So there's a lot of turmoil already 6 weeks into the season in Dallas. They don't seem to like Mike McCarthy and this coaching staff. They don't seem to like Kellen Moore. And that offensive line is dead and gone. That Hall of Fame offensive line that they've had for years is dead and gone. Zach Martin got knocked out of the game, I believe, with a concussion. He was basically the last remaining piece of that Hall of Fame offensive line. The Cowboys are shot. They got no defense. That offensive line's dead. No Dak. And they're just lucky they play in the NFC East because they have nothing besides a couple receivers, which are fantastic, and Zeke, but no line, no defense. The coach is exactly what he was in Green Bay. Obviously, Green Bay only won a Super Bowl because Aaron Rodgers. Not going to give Mike McCarthy really that credit. But Mike McCarthy I thought was an awful signing for Dallas. He's a guy that is way past the game has passed him by, I believe. And it says more to me about the Cowboys than it does the Cardinals. Cardinals don't look impressive. They did for the first 2 weeks, but it's really been kind of shaky the last couple weeks. So the Cowboys it's going to get worse.
For me, this is becoming like a W on the schedule every week. I mean, And John, I got to correct you on one thing. It's not the NFC East; it's the NFC least. I love my Giants, and I am always going to be a fan. But our division
One game
is
out.
a dumpster
One game
fire.
out.
What? That's a bad thing when you have one win. What's sad is we have 5 wins as a division. There are teams that have 5 wins already. That's pathetic. But the point I want to make is the Cowboys' defense is beyond terrible. It is. I'm convinced that Alabama, which is one of the best college teams at the moment, could probably beat up on how that defense because they're that pathetically bad.
No way. There's not a college team alive that could beat it.
Their defense has given up the most points in NFL history through the first 6 weeks of the season. Even worse than the Dolphins, who tanked last year.
That is pathetic. And congratulations to the Cardinals for winning. You won a game you were supposed to win, and if you would have lost, you would have looked pathetic. I mean, how bad would it have looked if Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray can't get it going against a backup quarterback? And I'm not going to take anything away from Andy Dalton because I do like Andy Dalton, actually. I think he's one of the best, if not the best backups, because he really could be a starter on a decent team. He was on bad teams, and he's on a beat-up team now, so that's different. But at the same time, you were playing such a horrible defense, you should win. And John, I have to agree with what you said, which is it hurts me to say because I like Kyler Murray. What you said, 9 passes? That's not good. That's not impressive. I'm pretty sure Daniel Jones completed more passes this week, and he's terrible compared to Kyler Murray. I mean, I was not an inspiring win. You beat up on a bad defense, and you had an offense that hasn't had their current now quarterback play with them for a full game yet. They're learning to play with him still. Andy Dalton does really not know this whole offense yet. I mean, I know he knows it in his head, but he doesn't physically know being on the field with them. It's not an accomplishment for me right now. I almost feel like pretenders. They don't feel serious to me, especially not a win like this.
Hang on. You can only play who's on your schedule. You can't go out and beat a team you're not playing. They got fortunate to get the Cowboys, who had Andy Dalton, who looked like he should have been quarterback in I don't know where, but none of the NFL last night. It was just a bad performance all around by Dallas. Zeke couldn't hold on to the ball. I'm glad I drafted a number 1 over McCaffrey because that killed his year. Go Giants. But, it was just a bad performance all around. McCarthy's coaching horrible. He didn't run Zeke enough. You got to feed the ball. But Zeke's been fumbling all year. I mean, the game, what was it, against Atlanta a couple of weeks back? They just kept turning the ball over, drive after drive. Same thing happened last night. Gotta control the ball. Ball security. If you can't control the ball, you're not going to win football games in the NFL. That's really all that there is to it. And don't take anything away from the Cardinals. They came out and they won easy. You can only play who's on your schedule, right, Brett?
That's right.
Absolutely. And the Cardinals were actually the underdog going into that game, guys. I don't know if you remember, but Dallas was favored by 1.5. Someone brought up that report that Cowboys players are just fed up with coaching. Brett, I wanted your take. Is that something that happens in the NFL that we don't really hear about, but the media kind of gets wind of? Have you ever, I don't want to say been a part of, but have you ever seen from different teams guys just not buying into what the coach is selling?
Not really. Everybody on that team is a professional. Now there's some personality clashes between players and individual coaches. It generally happens at a positional coach level. I've had my disagreements with my position coaches, and you put it by the wayside. And it's unfortunate. I think you hear about it nowadays, and I think it's blown up because back when I played, you left everything. The sign above the locker room said, "What you see here, what you say here, stays here when you leave here." And I think that has changed. And I think that changed when they started letting reporters into the locker rooms right after the games. We had no privacy. And I think now with free agency and the ability of college players to opt out of their scholarship and move because they're bent or they don't like how they're being treated, I think there's some character issues that you can look at there as far as, some of the players today. And I don't knock players because they're my friends and I'm one of their brothers. So, but I will say that sometimes I watch what's going on, the shenanigans in the press, and it's like, hey man, it's a man's game. Stop being a baby. Stop whining. You got dealt 5 cards, play those cards and play them the best you can. So I don't know. The whole world is different now. than it was in the 80s and 90s. I mean, it's like the wheels have fallen off or something. I don't know. And I think that it bleeds into sports. I think sports is a little microcosm that kind of shows what's happening in the world as a whole, if you can look at it. So I don't know. I've always been of the mind that it's like, if you can walk, you better play the game. If you can play hurt, you better play hurt, because if you didn't play hurt when I was playing, you got cut. And they brought another guy in because there's 1,000 guys standing in line for your job. So, I mean, I understand how they're trying to take care of the players now, but you can't take care of the players in the NFL, man. I mean, it's a violent game. And, there was a movie, Apocalypse Now, where the guy said, hey, it's, penalizing somebody for unnecessary roughness is like, in the NFL, is like giving somebody a ticket at the Indy 500. It's like, it's a very violent game. And you can't change that. You can put you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. So, those are my thoughts. I do stand with the players. I'll always defend them. I don't like it when guys dog them. Like, remember when Deerdorf was in the booth and he would start talking stuff about players and demeaning them. It's like, dude, I could have done the same thing to you when you were on the field. So, and Deerdorf was a great player, Hall of Famer, but man, come on, have some respect. The guys that are on that field all bleed together and win together and lose together. So it's unfortunate, but everybody doesn't always get along, but you got to get together on Sunday and play the game, or you're going to lose.
Definitely. Now, question for you about the Falcons. So they started out 0-4. They finally got a win this week in Minnesota. So what's going on in the locker room so that they could come out and, make something out of the season? Because they have a lot of talent on that team.
You just never know. It's the intangible. You got to have a good locker room. It's the same thing in baseball. You got to have a good clubhouse. Everybody's got to be happy. You can't have drama. You can't have people backbiting or talking smack or, pointing the finger. So I don't know. I'm not in that locker room, so I can't speak to that with any authority, and I would be speculating and doing the guys a disservice. I do know that it's very important, the atmosphere and the blend of people. And, a good example of that, if I'm not talking too much, you have to have the right people for the system that the head coach has on the table. And the best example I could throw you guys back to, you might be a little young, but when the Raiders were so successful and my boy John Madden was the head coach, he grabbed all these guys who were kind of thrown out, kind of ridiculed, not really stars in their own right, from teams that had kind of shunned them. And he didn't care about their attitude, but he picked guys that were perfect cogs in the wheel of his system, and those guys just crushed it. And what he did by doing that was get their loyalty and respect, and he put them in the right system, and they won. Eddie DeBartolo did the same thing in San Francisco with the 49ers. He was the most loved owner ever, and it's because he made his players feel loved and that he appreciated what they did for him and the team, and it went both ways. And I think the money's so big now that the guys really don't give a damn about what the coach is doing or the owner's doing. They're getting out there playing the game that they love, and they're doing their job. But at the end of the day, if I'm making $2 million a game, you think I'm really going to give too much of a damn about what's going on? I'm going to go to the highest bidder. And we couldn't move around. We were stuck on the team we were drafted on, and we had to play tough, because if we ever slacked off, we had Dan Henning said one year that we were getting our asses kicked every game. And I think we might have wound up like 4-12, or it was just a horrible season. He said, if I see one guy pull up in the players' parking lot with a trailer behind his car, you're going to get fired. And when people have losing seasons, when they're losing, they got to play, because their jobs are on the line. They can't just roll over and go, you know what? Shit, we're 2-8. It's like, yeah, you're 2-8. You know what's going to happen? People are going to lose their jobs. And if they look on film and they see you slacking, or they see you making mistakes, or they think that you're part of the problem, a lot easier to let a guy go with a 2-8 or a 2-14 record than it is 14-2, because chemistry is important. So that's my 2 cents.
I 100% agree. So last thing we want to do on the NFL, and then we're going to wrap up and move on. Brett, we want to hear your early predictions. Now, I know it's really early for the Super Bowl. You got to ask. Always got to hear, who do you think our 2 Super Bowl representatives are going to be this year?
Well, I know for sure one's going to be Kansas City. I
Absolutely
think
agree.
that's inescapable. Andy Reid is a brilliant coach. He's been around forever. They have a great coordinator. What's his name? Ben-Ami? Is it Ben-Ami, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Eric
Bieniemy.
Bieniemy.
Yeah,
Bieniemy.
he's fantastic. He should be a head coach somewhere right now. I mean, he is so good.
Maybe Atlanta.
Yeah, well, hey, I don't know. There's a couple. I played for Atlanta, and I don't know why we had talent. We had Willie Manders, Gerald Riggs, Bobby Butler. I mean, Jeff Van Oat, Mike Ken, R.C. Tillman, John Rady. We had great players. I just never could figure out why we couldn't turn the corner. And then with the Chargers, didn't have enough time there before Beathard came in and traded us all around. Jim McMahon was there. I mean, we had great talent there. Leslie O'Neal. And then the Jets, and then my last 3 years was the Jets, and the Jets I believe are cursed. I think there's a Jets curse. I don't know why. I don't know how it happened. It might have something to do with Papa. I don't know. But they just, I mean, and I don't know why the Falcons have the same issue on closing the deal. I mean, they've had great years. When they got beat by Denver, I was at that Super Bowl. It was a joke. It was like they gave it up. So, anyways, I'm going to say I'll go out on a limb with one team, and then you guys tell me the other one. I'm going to say Kansas City. You guys give me some feedback. Maybe Tampa.
See, my two teams, I got two options, but I'm going to stick with the one. As much as I like Tampa, I cannot vote against Russell Wilson. I understand their defense. Smart. Their defense is my only concern. It has been a little suspect, and I admit that. But Russell Wilson, I'm hoping, is finally going to get the respect he deserves. And what do I mean by that? Now, we all know he's wonderful. But you know how many MVP votes he's had in his entire career? Big fat donut. 0. Not 1.
Which is
how
insane.
that is possible, I don't understand, because he's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of this current generation.
He's going to go down as one of the best of all time.
Well, you guys, please don't forget, and this is not taking anything away from the winners, but the MVP, the Pro Bowl, and all that stuff, there's a great deal of popularity involved in that vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
so,
we know that.
Not just a statistic vote, right? So, but yeah, Russell Wilson should have been an MVP several times, and he will be a Hall of Famer. Go down probably one of the best ever.
So I see Chiefs and Seahawks. I think that's a very likely matchup, and I'm really hoping that happens because that would be fun. Wilson versus Mahomes, that sounds like a fun game to me. John, what do you got?
All right. Well, I'm going to say the Saints. Saints to me are, once they get healthy, are the class of the NFC. And then the Dolphins will get revenge on Le'Veon Bell for turning us down in the playoffs. End up upending the Chiefs, going to the Super Bowl. So Dolphins, Saints, my prediction. Bell will get what's coming to him for turning us down because he wanted to go to a Super Bowl contender.
I'll bet you could get some great odds on that bet.
There's got to be somebody that can stop Mahomes eventually. And I think there's
not if he stays healthy.
I mean, I've said all year, though, honestly, that the Titans are my dark horse AFC team. They can run the ball. They were up 10-0 last year in Kansas City. That team, they can beat the Chiefs. They can do it.
Oh yeah, they could. I mean, every team's beatable every day, but it's a consistency. But what's the running back's name for the Titans?
Derrick Henry.
Oh my God, I love watching that guy run. He's so big.
He made Josh Norman look like a puppet the other day when he just tossed him aside. That was wild.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
My Super Bowl prediction, I got the Ravens and the Packers. Pretty simple. I think both teams can get there. I think the Packers came back to earth a little bit this week. The Ravens have to figure out how to beat the Chiefs. That's got to be their number one objective. I got Ravens Packers. What about you, JB?
I like your Ravens pick. I'm with you on that, but I'm going to stay with Jake's division. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think McVay gets them back. I think that defense is the key. And if Goff, does what he needs to do, they keep the running game where it's been all year. I think they're going to come out of the West and out of the NFC. But Brett, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Is there a way people can follow you?
Sure. At Brett Miller. At B Miller NFL is on Instagram. And I also believe that is my Twitter page. And then, of course, on Facebook, feel free.
And
we'll confirm. We'll confirm and make sure we put it up on our sites for you.
That'd be great, guys. Thanks so much.
And And then if you guys are looking to, get into the real estate market in Southern California, make sure you look Brett up.
Yes, that's a big deal. Call me up. I'll help you out. And if I can't, I'll point you in the right direction.
Well, Brett, again, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Brett. Take it
Thanks.
easy.
See you,
Take
Brett.
care.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we've talked about the NFL a lot, but there's another sport that's really important. And we got the World Series going on right now. John, let's talk about the MLB.
So this actually, the Rays remind me of, I have a couple things that I wanted to talk about for this. First, we could see an all Tampa Bay championship from across 3 sports. Lightning, 1. The Bucks could get to the Super Bowl. There's a very strong possibility of that, and they could win it. That's a possibility. And the Rays are currently in the World Series, and they could win it. We could see an all Tampa Bay championship across those 3 sports, which is insane because you don't typically see one city dominate. So I thought that was kind of cool that Tampa Bay is kind of dominating the landscape when it comes to those 3 respective sports. And the Rays kind of remind me of the Heat, the team that you really didn't. I know they had a great record, but you didn't expect them to get to the championship. You expected like the Yankees to knock them out, and other teams. And they're kind of a team that, if they win, even though we're all, AL East, people, you wouldn't be upset even if you're an AL East person because they're kind of a like 2020. It's been a rough year and they're an underdog to the mighty Dodgers. And if they win, you wouldn't be upset. You'd be kind of happy. It'd be nice to see this other team finally win it that you didn't expect. So, what do you guys think about that? And then we'll talk about, the World Series. But I wanted to talk about that because I found that interesting.
First things first, I just want to say oof to everyone in Atlanta who's a Braves fan.
Sorry, Braves fans.
We are very sorry for you guys. Up 3-1 to give that up to a Dodgers team who has been notorious for choking in the playoffs. That was rough. I mean, but what a lot of people have said, and I sort of agree with this, is the Braves are built for the future. It's okay they didn't win right now. They're a young team. They have guys like Acuna, Fried, Ozuna was fantastic for them in that series. They have a lot of young talent, and they're going to be good for a long time. So Atlanta fans, don't worry. This wasn't your year. Next few years, you'll probably win at least one World Series. Those are my baseball thoughts. I don't want to get into the World Series.
We're also sorry about Georgia.
Come on, let's not pile on, John.
We're not up to that yet.
We're saying we're sorry.
We're not up to that yet. Let's talk about the positive. The Braves are going to be good for years to come. Like I said, these guys are young. They're fun to watch. The Dodgers are a talented team. I think Tampa, they're going to feel what it's like to get beat finally. And we can get rid of John's prediction. I mean, they got up to the World Series, but now you're going to lose. They barely got by the Astros. So when it comes to the Dodgers are just too good. The Braves, but they'll be good for years to come. It was heartbreaking to watch. I was rooting for the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers, but I feel bad for the Atlanta fans. I see it as a Yankee fan. Happened to me once against the Red Sox. It's not a fun experience, but you guys will be back next year. You're going to have a good year. You have a good core. You got Acuna, Freeman. I'm excited to see what Atlanta does. I enjoy watching them. Jake?
Yeah, I agree. I said it, I believe it was last week. I just said, look, I think they're a good team and they have a bright future. It's just, it wasn't their year yet, and that's okay. They think that the biggest thing that they have to take from this, it's a learning experience. You got to learn to play in the playoffs. That's just the way it is. I understand that they made it pretty far for how they are, but every team has to learn how to play in the playoffs. It's a different atmosphere, even though I understand it's a wacky year. It's still a different atmosphere of intensity, so they got to learn from that. But Atlanta fans have a lot to be excited about. This is a good young core. I think all they really need is maybe just another starting pitcher, but I'm sure they can get that. I mean, I truly think if they add just one starting pitcher, and it doesn't have to be the most, it doesn't have to be a Garrett Cole or a guy on that caliber. It could be a second-tier guy, maybe. If you just get another solid starter, it could be a winning team, absolutely. And I look forward to seeing what they have in the future.
And it's a shame because, with Atlanta, we've seen a lot of meltdowns. They give up the 2 runs that decided that game The loss ended up going, I believe, to Minter. Minter, I looked up his ERA. It was .86 on the season. .86, under 1. And he ends up giving up 2 runs in the deciding Game 7. That's not some bad luck, then I don't know what is. But I did want to talk about, because I found this interesting, that Kershaw is starting Game 1 tonight over Walker Buehler. And I don't like that if I'm a Dodgers fan, because I like Walker Buehler to end up getting maybe Game 1, Game 4, and Game 7 if it goes 7. I don't like Kershaw pitching 3 games. I don't quite trust Kershaw for 3 games with his history. I trust Walker Buehler. I know he's a lefty. I know Kershaw's a lefty, so lefties are harder to match up against. But I like Buehler if I'm a Dodger fan, 1, 4, and 7 if you have to go 7. I don't like Kershaw starting it out. But Spencer, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's Tuesday night. It's in the 3rd inning. Last time I checked, the bottom of the 3rd, score is still 0-0. So Kershaw's been good so far. Obviously, by the time you guys listen to this, you'll know who have won. The one thing I found really interesting is I was listening to Max Kellerman's radio show today, and he was talking about, Kershaw's ERA. And in the regular season, it's Hall of Fame stuff. I think it's like he has a career ERA of 2.4.
He's one of the best ever. Yeah.
One of the best ever. And you go to the playoffs, and he started listing off like AL. Which one's higher, ALDS or CS?
ALDS, and then it's ALCS.
CS. It goes NLDS and then CS.
Okay, so he's saying his DS series ERA average is like around the low 4s. Then you go up and you win, and then it gets a little bit higher. In the 4 games he's pitched in the World Series, I think he has above a 5 ERA, guys. So this is someone who historically stinks in the postseason, and he's one of the best regular season pitchers of all time. So it's just, you never really see that in sports. As I've said before, possibly on this radio show, the Los Angeles Dodgers are the Buffalo Bills of the early 90s. They get there, and they never finish. Now they're playing a very young Rays team in this series that actually probably has better all-around pitching than the Dodgers, but they're inexperienced, they're young. If the Dodgers were ever going to win a World Series, and you add Mookie Betts in the offseason, who's one of the best outfielders in baseball, this is that year. And if they lose, it's going to be devastating, given everything that's happened with COVID-19 and all that. This seems like the year where the best teams, you saw it with the Lakers in basketball, the best team in baseball should win, and it's been the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it pretty much from what I feel, Kershaw, we see it in New York all the time when the Yankees or Mets bring in people and guys that just can't handle the pressure. Now, pitching in LA, you don't have the scrutiny like the media you do in New York. The media in New York is tough. So, like in the playoffs, you start to get that scrutiny, and that's where Kershaw is under the scrutiny, and he just doesn't do well. So, there's just certain guys, for whatever reason, just don't handle that pressure. But, as we said tonight, 3 innings, 1 hit. Maybe he got something going, he's figured it out. Let's hope he gets it together, because he is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But for whatever reason, when it comes to playoffs with the scrutiny, it just does him no good. Jake?
Now,
I was saying, maybe they just want to show trust in their guy. I mean, Kershaw's been their guy for how many years now? I mean, it's been a long time that Kershaw has been their ace and really has been their guy, like I said. So, I'm not going to say I agree with it, because I personally would go with just the best. I don't care if he's your guy. It doesn't matter if you got to make a change because someone's better. I don't care who they are. It could be the greatest. It could be Michael Jordan in basketball, for example. If you got a guy that's better than him or is going to be playing better than him at that moment, I'd put him in. I just don't care. It's not, reputation means nothing to me personally. It's about winning, and you got to do the best to win. And so it feels like they're just going with almost a safe bet, the person they know, the person they've been trusting for so long, and maybe they're hoping he rewrites his own history, and maybe they're putting their trust in him, and they're afraid that if they don't put him in there and they say, we're demoting you basically to number 2, maybe they fear he's going to play worse, or because it's going to be a mental thing, and maybe it's also just on his own schedule. Like, okay, here's the day he's supposed to pitch, or mentally ready to pitch. I don't know, but that could be it. But for me, if I were trying to win and I'm thinking, what is my best chance to win? I'm putting my best pitcher in there, and I'm putting Buehler in, no doubt. I mean, not even a question. I would put my best pitcher in there 100 times out of 100. I wouldn't take that risk, especially on the biggest stage, the World Series. If you got a chance to have a guy at 1 and 4, and if you can take a 2-1 lead into game 4, you got to have your best guy out there. You can go up 3-1. I'd want that as opposed to a guy I'm not so sure about, especially in the playoffs.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
Actually, what concerns me, I don't know how to say his name, Arozarena for the Rays. I have a tough time saying his name, but actually I heard a stat today. The Rays hit, I believe it was about 150 in the ALCS, and they relied on the home run ball to get him over the hump, which worked. But I believe against a team like the Dodgers, that's not going to work. If you hit 150 in the World Series against the Dodgers, you're not going to beat them. So the Rays have to get better because, yeah, you can play great defense, you can pitch. But if you are hitting 150 as a team, which they're a team that's known to play a small ball and hit for average and things like that, and they can hit for some power, you're not going to beat the Dodgers that way. So that was just something that I found interesting when I heard that today, that they got by the Astros, but the Dodgers are way, way better than the Astros. The pitching is way better, and you're not going to get by the Dodgers hitting 150.
So we have a few minutes left in the show, and I was just thinking, this is an Atlanta show. I was thinking like one of the hottest athletes in Atlanta over the last year, someone we actually haven't mentioned on the podcast, is Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. And it just got me thinking of some really memorable athletes that I grew up with in my childhood from Atlanta. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool way to end the show. We can all kind of go around the horn and give one athlete in our childhood growing up from Atlanta that we loved. So I'm going to start. My guy in Atlanta was Joe Johnson. With those playoff teams, I mean, I'm not going back too far, about 13 years ago, 12 years ago, but Joe Johnson for the Hawks, the team was him, Josh Smith, Jeff Teague, Marvin Williams, Jamal Crawford came off the bench. The year that the Celtics they won the championship was 2009. In the first round, they played the Hawks, and the Hawks gave them a run for their money. The series went 7 games. But I was a huge Joe Johnson guy. He ended up going to my Brooklyn Nets, where I got to watch him for a few years. Any Atlanta sport, John. I just got your message. You can pick any sport. I'm going with Joe Johnson. JB, let's go with you. Give me an Atlanta athlete from your childhood that you really liked growing up.
There's only one for me right off the bat. The human highlight film. Dominique Wilkins. I mean, that to watch him dunk, to play, and it was always rough because they never got over the hump. They never were able to, win a championship, but it was always fun to watch. And in New York back in the day, we had his brother Gerald on the Knicks, and it was just a great player to watch. He always had that smile. Looked like he was a great guy, someone you'd want to sit down and talk to. It's just a phenomenal player. I just could move anyway. Jake,
being the young guy, I'm gonna have the most recent player. I actually have 2. Mike Vick, because I was probably about 8 years old when he left the Falcons, so that's the really young side of me. Mike Vick was just an electrifying player, and it was painful when he went to the Eagles. I was not a happy Giants fan for a while. And then the other big name, a more recent player, you can't forget about the great Julio Jones. I mean, he has been just unbelievable. He's, again, just another great player that every time he's out there, it's just, what's we gonna do today? What are we gonna see him do on the field today? And I felt like that with both of those guys. It was just really so electrifying, game-changing guys. You had to watch them. They were must-watch TV.
Yeah, for me, for an Atlanta thing, that is a guy a lot of you probably won't remember, but Jake, you probably will. He was a guy I really enjoyed watching. He got drafted by the Thrashers, if anybody remembers the Atlanta Thrashers, back in 2001. Ilya Kovalchuk.
Oh.
He had a lot of injuries and he bounced around from teams, but he was a really good player, and I loved watching Ilya Kovalchuk when he was on the Thrashers. I wasn't a Thrashers fan, but when they had the team in Atlanta, I just thought he was a fantastic player. Unfortunately, with the Danny Heatley thing, it's another story, but I loved him and Danny Heatley. They were fantastic players, and Kovalchuk would be my guy from Atlanta. Just growing up, he was just a fun player to watch, and he was exciting. But not a lot of people talk about a guy like that. He's kind of a forgotten name.
One of the best Russian-born hockey players ever, period. I love it. And just for anybody that doesn't know a lot about hockey, the Atlanta Thrashers are now the Winnipeg Jets. So they've moved.
Yes,
But that's so everybody knows this. That's that team. That's the team. That's where they are now. But they were the Atlanta Thrashers at first. John, I like that pick. I didn't think about Kovalchuk because I don't really think of the Thrashers in general. I like that pick. That was unexpected.
Jake, what do you have for us in hockey, real quick?
Yeah, I was going to say not a lot. Just one really on the big signing. Joe Thornton, after being with the San Jose Sharks for 15 seasons, Jumbo Joe, as they call him down there, out there, he's moving on. Jumbo Joe Thornton has signed with Toronto Maple Leafs on a 1-year deal. He talked about how hard that was, and I can't imagine leaving a franchise after that. Obviously, the Sharks are moving on from him. So that was the only really big signing, big name. I wouldn't call it a big splash because, again, 41-year-old, that's not really that exciting. He's not producing like he used to. But he is finally moving on from the Sharks, and he is on to the Maple Leafs. And that was really it for the NHL. We had a quiet week. I mean, last week we had a huge flurry of signings, but this week was pretty quiet. JB, you got anything going on in the NBA?
The only thing that surprised me was I heard that the Bucks are not gonna, if they're gonna offer Giannis the max, and if he doesn't sign with them, they're not gonna sign him and trade him, which kind of surprises me. They won't do that because, if you're not gonna keep him, wouldn't you want to trade him to get something for it? So I'm curious as to what their motive is behind that. Any quick thoughts on that, guys? We have a couple of minutes.
I find that a little bit odd. If you got a guy that's MVP caliber, he's gonna demand a high price no matter what. Wouldn't you think that if you're not going to end up retaining him in the end, if you're going to end up losing him, wouldn't you try to at least just get him back for anything really, just to recoup something? Even if, honestly, I know this is going to sound silly, even if they got something as low as like a 3rd round pick, if that was the best they could get.
There's only 2 rounds in the NBA.
I'm so used to thinking about sport. Your 2nd round pick, but you get what I mean. A low, really low pick. Or even a bench player. I don't care.
It's something, right?
Right, anything. I mean, if you're going to lose a superstar like him, don't you want to get something for him? I mean, you don't want to lose him just outright. You might as well try and gain something.
My only thought to the opposite of it is that they feel that by them saying that, they're kind of limiting his options, and no other team then could give him the max. But, I don't like coming out publicly saying that. I don't know how the report came out. Spencer, what do you think?
They're not going to get another guy like Giannis for a while, I think. So in their mind, they want to hold on to him as long as they could. They're hoping that it's not an Anthony Davis scenario. But I mean, the Pelicans did trade Davis for a good young core. So in that case, I don't know if they might luck out. If I'm the Bucks, though, I want to just kind of squeeze everything out of Giannis I possibly can.
John?
Yeah, I think this is funny because it's just like, Flores for the Dolphins said, "Oh, we're going to keep Fitzpatrick," and then a week later he names 2 of the starter. It's coach speak. Coaches do this all the time. They tell you one thing, or GM tells you one thing, and then a week later they go and do something else. So I don't believe it for a moment. It'll just have to be a wait and see. And if a team comes along with a nice enough offer, they'll consider the offer. They're not just going to turn everybody down. They'll consider everything. It's just coach speak.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about, but it's the way it's going to be. I get that you got to try and get the most that you can for him. It's a shame that it's Milwaukee. He may not want to stay there. I understand, you want to be in a big market. He wants to win. Spencer, you have anything going on else in the NBA that you?
Yeah, I got to give Nick Nurse credit. I mean, he got his assistant coach hired by the Indiana Pacers. Nate Bjorkgren. I got to learn how to pronounce that last name.
Bjorkgren.
Thank you, John. He got hired by the Indiana Pacers. I don't think that that's a person that we have not heard of yet. But Nick Nurse did such a great job with the Raptors these past 2 years. He's getting guys hired. He's essentially the Sean McVay of the NBA. If you're friends with Nick Nurse, you're going to get a job. So good on, congratulations to the Pacers and Nate Jorgren. And I just kind of saw it coming just because Nick Nurse had such a successful 2-year stint with the Raptors. It sort of made sense that some of his assistants would get jobs around the NBA.
Yeah. Guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to check us out. We now are airing Sundays, 12 to 12:30 NFL pregame, Journey with the Jays Sunday edition. So you want to make sure you're checking that out. Jake, you want to give out our Twitter real quick?
Our Twitter is Journey with the 3. Find us on Instagram at Journey with the Jays. Find us on Facebook at Journey with the Jays. Look us up on YouTube if you're listening on air. That's where we can be found at Journey with the Jays as well. If anybody ever wants to email us, you have questions, anything like that, Journey with the Jays podcast at gmail.com. I think that's all our social. That's everything for us.
And we can just check out our pages. We will have a merchandise site coming up soon. So we'll send that out on our pages and things like that you can check out, and you can buy Journey with the Jays merchandise soon.
And John, what about Perch Sportsnet?
You can go to Perch Sports Talk. You can go to Perched at the Yard on Podbean. Just search that, and it's my channel. And then it also has Journey with the Jays episodes on there as well. So you can find that on there. And then you can find me on the Fantasy and Flavors show Thursday nights. That airs. You can check it out on YouTube. Search the Carousel. You'll find Eric Wilson and Alex Fleming. They run that. You can find JB and I on there.
Yep. And Spencer, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Saw42. I host the Last Resort Sports Podcast and Fireside Nets. You can also find both those podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep, and you guys can find me on Instagram at Jake_Malik. I also host a Giants podcast, Scouting Giants. We are on our sister or our brother channel, rather, is Pigskin Nut. That's where we post our work. We crazy about football over there. There's a lot of content on there. Check us all out. But Scouting Giants for me, if you're a Giants fan or you just like hearing me talk, I guess.
And you can follow me on the program on the Believe Network. Also, again, on Fantasy of Flavors, the Carousel. We have an interview coming up with Brett on Monday. It'll be airing, so make sure you listen for an extended version. Want to thank Brett for coming on the show tonight on Journey with the Jays. Again, we're on Real 1100, YouTube, Facebook, and make sure you're following us. So we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great night, everybody.